Namaskar. The Balipara Foundation is a very known organization for its commitment towards the preservation of nature. And this time, they are organizing the 8th edition of Eastern Himalayan Nasonomics Forum 2020. This is, I believe, mainly to focus the importance of nature in our day-to-day life. We understand about the availability of hardship of biodiversity in the state of Assam, and because of our beautiful natural landscape, geography, and its habitation, which create an environment meant for healthy human life and also the healthy living of domestic as well as wildlife. I believe this Balipara Foundation, this time as earlier, will definitely put their best possible effort to create an awareness among the people of Assam to respect nature, the importance of nature, importance of greenery, importance of forestry. So I am happy that during our tenure since 2016, we have given a lot of emphasis for the promotion of nature and its green coverage. That is why during our time, in the last 4.5 years, we have planted more than 8.5 crore sapling throughout the state with the different varieties, fruits, flower and medicinal plant. And I am happy to inform you that during our tenure, we could able to enhance the forest coverage more than 222 square kilometer in the state of Assam. That reflects the government's commitments towards the restoration of nature and its beauty and biodiversity of the state. And I wish all the success of this important event, and whoever is going to participate, I wish them very, very fruitful participation as well as homely stay in the Balipara Foundation premises, and I hope that everybody will carry back home with a sweet memory from the beauty of nature of Assam. Thank you.
Friends, it gives me great pleasure to deliver the virtual keynote address at the 8th edition of the Eastern Himalayan Naturenomics Forum 2020, organized by Balipara Foundation, with its guiding theme, Eastern Himalayan Rural Futures, Ecology is Economy. I'm speaking to you at an epochal moment in the tide of human affairs. We are confounded today by the contradiction between the triumphs of technology and its apparent limitations. Pollution and climate change are issues of critical concern, with disease and global warming now seen as a direct result of lifestyle patterns. As a community, we have to harmonize nature with material aspirations. Ecology is to be assimilated with economy in such a way that one reinforces the other, and the fruits of material prosperity are shared by all, and the interests of coming generations are safeguarded. The Eastern Himalayas are an ideal location for this renaissance in economic and environmental planning. The northeastern region of India contributes a quarter of the country's forest cover. In Meghalaya, the forest cover recorded by satellite data makes up approximately 76% of the geographical area of the state. One of the great blessings of my life was to be born in a society that embraces nature. Our livelihood is intricately interwoven with environment. I recall my experience as a child traveling the rural areas in our state, where I have seen how human beings coexist with environment for sustenance. Nature provides us food, fiber, fuel, water. It regulates climate, pollinates crops, recycles nutrients, mitigates natural hazards, and maintains water, soil, and air quality. When I watch the folks tilling the soil to rear what urban folks call organic crop, I see the opportunity and possibilities that can emerge if villages were linked to the world by technology and management genius. Meghalaya is home to 834 medicinal plant species. The turmeric produced in the hills of Meghalaya has a staggering curcumin value of 8 to 12%, making it a mainstay of traditional cooking and medicine. A fascinating array of wild animals such as Asian elephant, Himalayan black bear, clouded leopard, golden cat, pangolin, and the western hollow gibbons dwell in our forests. The insect-eating pitcher plant constantly fascinates tourists. The numerous limestone caves in the state house multiple species of bats. As the Chief Minister of Meghalaya, I have the opportunity to articulate dreams and pursue their actualization. We are pioneering a concept called Smart Village that will leverage technology to improve the quality of life in 100 selected villages in the state. Our goal is to provide education, healthcare, access to clean water, sanitation, nutrition, and employment opportunities to people in villages through scalable business models. We shall be working in collaboration with a team headed by Professor Solomon Darwin, Executive Director of the Garwood Center for Corporate Innovation, Haas School of Business, with whom I had an invigorating exchange at the University of Berkeley last year. We live in a deeply interconnected world, and it is imperative that we connect and partner with individuals, organizations, states, and countries. I look forward to the 8th Eastern Himalayan Naturenomics Forum as a platform where the minds of Eastern Himalayan communities will connect and explore and unfold path-breaking opportunities. We have vast areas of enterprises to look at, from ecotourism to value addition of minor forest products to the harnessing of vast potential of tidal power to replacing the fossil fuels with their debilitating carbon footprints. There has to be a cultural reawakening to return to serving hot food on banana leaves and carrying groceries in biodegradable bags made of jute or fibers of leftover pineapple leaves. The moment of decision is now. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Namaskar. It gives me immense pleasure to be part of the 8th edition of the Eastern Himalaya Naturenomics Forum 2020. The Eastern Himalaya region is blessed with abundant natural capital, and for years these ecological assets have helped the communities thrive in the region. Since the advent of human civilization, we have depended on natural capital to drive our economic growth. Our natural assets have formed the basic of our existence and progress. Arunachal Pradesh has one of Asia's most biologically diverse and intact forest ecosystem. Due to its topography, the state has varied agroclimatic conditions suitable for horticulture as well as aromatic and medicinal plants. More than 500 varieties of orchid can be found here. With such rich ecological heritage comes great sense of pride and responsibility to nurture the spirit of conservation. Our government is promoting ecotourism as it offers the benefits of conservation to communities. We have notified an ecotourism policy and recently created Arunachal Pradesh Ecotourism Promotional Society to promote ecotourism with active involvement of local communities. The USP of ecotourism is high value, low volume tourism that generate a significant amount of revenue to the local resident. We are also promoting vocal for local and development of local handicraft production units to support livelihoods. In a post-COVID era, the Himalayan region has to lead by examples and promote its strength of cultural diversity and rich ecology to attract investment in promoting sustainable local business. We have to come together to make the region the next most favored destination by big business. I wish the forum and its eclectic group of speakers and participants the very best, and I look forward to a positive nature action agenda for the Eastern Himalayas. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Dear friends and respected delegates, it gives me immense pleasure to deliver the virtual keynote address at the 8th edition of Eastern Himalayan Naturenomic Forum 2020, organized by Balipara Foundation, with its guiding theme, Eastern Himalayan rural futures ecology is economy. I am speaking to you at a critical moment in the tide of human affairs. We are confounded today by the contradiction between the triumphs of technology and its apparent limitation. Pollution and climate change are issues of critical concern. Diseases and global warming are seen as a direct result of lifestyle pattern. As a community, we have to harmonize nature with material aspiration. Ecology is to be assimilated with economy in such a way that one reinforces the other, and the fruits of material prosperity are shared by all, and thus the interests of future generations are safeguarded. The Eastern Himalayas are an ideal location for this renaissance in economic and environmental planning. The northeastern region of India contributes a quarter of the country's forest cover. In Mizoram, the forest cover recorded based on interpretation of satellite data from December 2017 to February 2018 is approximately 8,005.51 square kilometers, which is 85.41 of the total geographical area of the state. The forests of the state are under a three-tier management, namely those owned and controlled by the state, district councils and village councils. Tropical wet evergreen forests of the state have various valuable timber species and the top canopy. Bamboos occur abundantly in the middle and lower strata of the evergreen forest type. Canes are also present in this type of forest. It is to be noted that the state is rich in bamboo species, with over 27 species of bamboo reported from across the state. One of the great blessings of my life was to be born in a society that embraces nature. Our livelihood is intricately interwoven with the environment. I recall my experience as a child, traveling the rural areas in our state, where I have seen how human beings coexist with our environment for sustenance. Nature provides us with food, fiber, fuel, water. It regulates climate, pollinates crops, recycles nutrients, mitigates natural hazards, and maintains water, soil, and air quality. I can foresee the opportunities and possibilities that our people in the rural areas can have if impetus is given to organic farming with technological intervention and proper scientific management. Mizoram is also home to numerous species of birds, reptiles, amphibians, fish, invertebrates, and mammals. Some mammal species seen in Mizoram include slow loris, the state animal red sparrow, Goral tiger, leopard, clouded leopard, leopard cat, and Asiatic black bear. As a Chief Minister of Mizoram, I have the opportunity to articulate dreams and pursue their actualization, to achieve well-stocked high-quality forests with rich biodiversity, for maintaining ecological balance and ensuring environmental stability, while meeting the forest-based needs of the local people in the state. Our government is putting all effort in terms of policy, implementation, and actions to adopt effective silviculture practice, involving the indigenous communities actively in the process of planning, implementation, and monitoring of schemes for the conservation of forest and wildlife across the state. We live in a deeply interconnected world. It is imperative that we connect and partner with the individuals, organizations, states, and countries. I look forward to the 8th Eastern Himalayan Naturonomic Forum as a platform with Eastern Himalayan communities to connect, explore, and unfold path-breaking opportunities. It is important that we take inspiration from our indigenous communities in our lifestyle, In a post COVID era, the communities from the Eastern Himalayan region have so much to teach to the world. As leaders and concerned citizens of the region, we need to collaborate in deploying those knowledge systems as a basis of our development aspirations. In conclusion, I hope that we reflect on the rich natural assets we hold and stand towards preserving it for today and for our future generations. The moment of our decision is now. I thank all of you.
Dear friends, I'm happy to deliver this keynote address at the 8th edition of the Eastern Himalayan Naturonomics Forum 2020. I thank the Balipara Foundation for inviting me to share my thoughts with experts and leaders working day and night to conserve the rich natural capital of our Eastern Himalayas. This is the greatest need of the hour as we face a global climate and biodiversity crisis, especially in the Northeast. I'm happy that the Badipara Foundation is working hard to conserve forest and to build sustainable livelihood of the communities in the Northeast. I'm sure that we as a region can work together for sustainable development of our indigenous and rural communities. The Eastern Himalayas region, falling under the Indo-Myanmar biodiversity hotspot, is one of the most important biodiversity hotspots in the world. And we are honored to be sharing this common heritage. The Northeast is home to a great variety of flora and fauna. It also has an immense diversity of indigenous communities living here since time immemorial. These communities have always shared a very strong bond with the natural environment and depended on the natural capital around them to survive and thrive. Ecology is economy, and it has been the fundamental principle driving their lives. Unfortunately, growing threats from climate change and mindless exploitations of natural resources have made our communities and our natural capital vulnerable like never before. Therefore, it is important that we draw upon our cultural traditions and customs to find solution to these problems. I have no doubt in my mind that our traditional knowledge system can help conserve our natural capital. The conservation of flora and fauna by the communities of Nagaland has been an age-old practice. We have records of community-based conservation initiatives being undertaken as early as beginning of the 19th century. Yangpang village in Longland district declared some of their forest as a community conserved area way back in 1842. Since then, village after village have taken similar action. The village council controls and maintains these conservation areas as per age-old Naga customary laws. Hunting of wild animals or birds, as well as tree felling for timber, etc., is banned in these CCAs. This best practice of designating village forest lands as a community conserved area has been protected and conserved biodiversity in the state. My government is also providing additional legal protections to these communities' conserved areas. By designating them as community reserve under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. As on date, the state has declared 117 community reserve, which is the highest in the country. Conservation comes naturally to Naga communities as they live in harmony with nature, depending on it for food, shelter, medicines, etc. Thus, we can proudly say that Nagas are a century ahead of the rest of the world in recognizing the importance of biodiversity and preserving them for future. In times like today, when we face an unprecedented calamity in the form of global pandemic, we need to rethink our ways of living. It is important that we take inspirations from our indigenous communities and adopt their lifestyles. This doesn't mean that we have to set aside economic considerations, but we need to ensure that our ecological assets are not compromised. In a post COVID era, the communities from the eastern Himalayan region have so much to teach to the world. As leaders and concerned citizens of the region, we need to collaborate in deploying this knowledge system as the basis of our development inspirations. In conclusion, let us retain and learn to live in harmony with nature, a way that our communities have adopted for centuries and move toward a more sustainable society. I wish the forum all success, and I invite all the world leaders to partner with us to conserve and sustain our rich biodiversity and to build a sustainable future for the coming generations. Thank you.
It's a great honor to be delivering this keynote address at the 8th edition of the Eastern Himalayan Naturenomics Forum 2020. I thank Balipara Foundation for inviting me to be a part of this platform to share my thoughts with practitioners and leaders working for conserving the rich natural capital of the Eastern Himalayas. The Himalayas is not only a geographical entity, the Himalayas stand for the very ethos of this country and signifies all that is great in our culture and in our value system of India. This is the need of the hour as we face a global climate and biodiversity crisis, especially threatening the Northeast. And as you know, the Northeast is the most diverse part of this great country. Every few kilometers we go, we find new cultures, new ways of life, and it is the home of the most fragile ecosystems in this country. The work of the Balipara Foundation in this area for restoring forest and building sustainable livelihoods for communities in Assam is very important. And I hope that as a region, we can work together strongly towards this for sustainable development of our indigenous and rural communities in the Northeast. The topic that is being discussed today is a topic that is most important. It is ecology for economy. Today, when we talk of development, we talk of SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, and for any development to be sustainable and far-reaching, it has to be eco-friendly. Otherwise, all development will go to waste and it will not sustain as it should. And in the Northeast, there is much to learn about the symbiotic relationship between man and nature. I had been to a environment summit in Shillong a few years back, and I had said something which I want to repeat here. I had said that the tourism slogan for India is Atiti Deva Bhava, but for the Northeast it should be Prakriti Deva Bhava, because all our value systems, our ways of life of the indigenous people, and all our livelihoods are dependent on the environment and forests. And indeed there is a lot to learn. There is a lot to learn from the indigenous way of life, how man lives with nature in harmony. But it is not to say that we should not make progress. But as we make progress and move on, move ahead, we should take our traditional knowledge, traditional wisdom that has been handed down to us through the millennia with us to reach greater progress and greater development. This is what one needs to learn from the indigenous lifestyle of Northeast, how people live in complete harmony with nature and how nature supports life systems, and it is a relationship of give and take based on wisdom and tradition. Talking about Tripura, the state is endowed with abundant surface water resources of nearly 10 major rivers which flow through Tripura, benefiting and adding quality to agriculture and the ecosystem as a whole of the state. However, polluted stretches of river are resulting to a massive destruction of ecology, resulting into loss of habitat, disruption of food chain, and also causing death to aquatic lives. It is also affecting people and wildlife habituating in the catchment areas after consuming the contaminated water. A few factors like encroachment of river banks, dumping of industrial and biochemical waste into the rivers, discharge of human excreta directly into the river, chopping down of trees for jhum cultivation is leading towards soil erosion and ecological degradation. Let us all understand the critically we are facing in the form of global pandemic and the need to rethink our ways of living. It is important that we take inspiration from our indigenous communities and adopt their lifestyles and treat our ecology as our assets and therefore reach sustainable development goals, and that can only be done when we realize that ecology is economy in the Northeast. We speak of economy in highly complicated terms of pie charts and graphs, but ecology and economy is bonded together in Northeast in the simple lives of our people. Our lives are entwined with nature, whether it is in the cultural field, in the economic field, or the value systems that we have. In closing, I hope that we reflect on the rich natural assets and the rich natural heritage that we hold and stand towards preserving it for today and for our future. Thank you so much for inviting me to give this address, and I thank Balipara Foundation for doing a great job in many fields. Thank you so much.
I'm happy that the Balipara Foundation is organizing the 8th edition of the Eastern Himalayan Neuroeconomic Forum 2020 on the theme Eastern Himalayan Rural Futures, Ecology is Economy. Manipur is famous for its wide diversity of plant and animal species. Two biodiversities hotspots share the territory of Manipur, the Himalayan biodiversity hotspot and the Indo-Burma biodiversity hotspot. We are dependent on products of our environment for various needs such as food, forest products, water shelters, and so on. The relation between nature and the man is that of one between mother and child. Despite huge biodiversity resource, the people of our state have unfortunately forgotten that we have to take care of the environment as well. People in hills of Manipur have been practicing zoom cultivation by burning forest cover. Due to influence of money, poppy cultivation has replaced zoom cultivation with widespread felling of trees. Such deforestation has led to such rapid erosion of soil cover. In turn, rainwater carries the soil to the valley towards the Loktak Lake. On its way, the river abroad, the sediments and the river beds have become shallow. The net result is that flash floods have become very frequent in the state. On account of lesser carrying capacity of the rivers, the annual flood causes widespread misery with loss of life as well as property. At the same time, loss of forest cover has affected the climate, especially in terms of rainfall and the temperature. This has again affected agricultural practice. It is believed that the Loktak project has led to disappearance of various species of fish in the state. These are examples that should open our eyes on the need for living in harmony with nature and environment. Development is important, but it has to be sustainable. Our development goals must care for the need of future generation. We should take care of our needs, but we should not be driven by greed. My government launched the Minister Green Manipur Mission. The scheme will provide incentives to communities who are willing to take up forestry on their land. We are giving a new focus on the fishery sector through facilitating fishery loans for fish farmer, training manufacture of fish feed, and new technology to revive local species of fish which had almost disappeared. We launched Loktak Livelihood Mission with an aim of utilizing vast unutilized areas of the Loktak Lake for fishery. We are exploring alternative livelihood options for people who were involved in zoom cultivation and poppy cultivation by exposing them to horticultural crops such as avocado, lemon grass, kiwi, pineapple, ginger, etc. We are promoting startup in a big way so that our entrepreneurs can come up with novel ideas that make use of nature's gift for welfare of both man and nature. We are promoting ecotourism in a big way by combining it with homestays. Our annual Shanghai Festival is centered around the saving of Shanghai. The Bro antler deer found only in the Kabui Lamjao, the world's only floating national park. We are earmarking vast areas of land by preserving the Manipuri pony. We look to dredging of our rivers to increase their carrying capacity. We are taking up sewage treatment projects to ensure that water gets treated before they enter the river system. We are reviving our wetlands such as Lamphel Park, which has been lost due to the encroachment and the build-up of building infrastructure. These are few of the many steps that could be mentioned. Our vision is clear. We want to create better environment for ourselves. We want to live a better environment for future generation. The independence between man and ecology must never be lost sight of. This concern have to guide all our development activities. I thank the Balipara Foundation for providing this platform to share some of my thoughts on this occasion. Jai Hind.
Namaskar, distinguished session chair, eminent panelist, participants, ladies and gentlemen, warm greetings from Sikkim and its people to all the participants, and I thank for this opportunity. First of all, it is a privilege for me to be among this galaxy of prominent personalities on a discourse to rationalize the importance of Eastern Himalaya contributing sustainable development. Our green heritage, passed on by our forefathers, is our natural capital for us, and the Eastern Himalaya is a global asset. I am personally very pleased to know that Balipara Foundation is advocating the significance of Eastern Himalaya through this virtual forum. I am also happy to learn that this session will be emphasizing on opportunities to harmonize ecology and economy for a prosperous future for us and the coming generation. I congratulate the organizers for making this event meaningful for all of us, including the people of Sikkim. We all know that the Eastern Himalaya is listed as part of the mega diversity countries. Due to its immense natural assets, it is among the biologically richest area on earth and harbor a variety of biodiversity. Even today, the large inaccessible landscape of this region hides the real extent of its biodiversity. This was evident from 1998 to 2008, where more than 350 new species were identified, including one of the world's smallest deer and the possibility of many more species that are yet to be discovered. However, at the same time, it is also a part of the crisis ecoregions, biodiversity hotspots, and global 200 ecoregions due to changing scenario of our heritage. As part of the Eastern Himalaya, Sikkim is privileged to be blessed with large number of natural resources and rich biodiversity including birds, butterflies, orchid and medicinal plants. The agricultural diversity implemented by ethnic diversity and more importantly with ecosystem diversity due to the various elevations. Our association with nature is stronger with almost 75% of our people still living in the rural areas and depend on surrounding nature for their livelihood. Our ancestors used their traditional knowledge and practices, sustainable conservation and add value to these resources. It is this legacy that inspired and guided us in charting the sustainable use of resources, considering it is a natural capital. While we take great pride in our rich culture and past achievement, we are faced with numerous challenges from globalization, climate change, and most recently, disruption and adverse impact of COVID-19 pandemic. Sikkim is a mountainous state with limited opportunities compared to rest of India. Thus, our development model has to therefore be unique to meet the aspirations of people living in fragile and harsh conditions. Hence, Sikkim's development model is built on the three pillars of sustainable development. 1. Environmental sustainability. Number 2. Social well-being. And number 3. Economic viability. As part of the first pillar, environmental sustainability, over 40% of Sikkim's land areas falls under the protected area network, including the first mixed World Heritage Site in India based on culture and nature, the Kanchenjunga National Park, notified by UNESCO. Sikkim is also part of the Kanchenjunga Landscape Initiative, a regional conservation and development initiative covering part of eastern Nepal, Bhutan and Sikkim, facilitated by the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, ASIMOD. Sikkim has been declared the cleanest state on a number of occasions and have made great strides in the field of renewable and clean energy, capitalizing on our abundant natural resources. We have undertaken vulnerability mapping across the state, based on which coping and adaptation interventions are designed and implemented. Spring set, water set, and landscape conservation approaches are being applied for resilience and to sustain ecosystem services. Our forest cover increased from 2,700 square kilometers in 1989 to 3,379 square kilometers in 2020. Sikkim is a pioneer of the Smriti Ban concept aimed at developing memorial forest on degraded land through community stewardship. Ladies and gentlemen, as part of the second pillar, social well-being, Sikkim has made effort to empower its citizens by lending support and promote rural tourism, homestay, and agro-pastoristic practices, focusing on organic agriculture production and dairy and rural setting based on nature and culture. By promoting and incentivizing organic agricultural practices, agro-biodiversity management, and supporting entrepreneurship for youth through skill development, soft loans, and startup opportunities. Sikkim is supporting the responsible production and consumption in addition to being a fully organic state and preferred destination for ecotourism. Sikkim is also one of the largest producers of large cardamom. We have recently nominated our famous Dalle Khusani round chilies for geographical indication tag and have been working with Ashimot on large cardamom and for its regional stack. Ladies and gentlemen, considering the third pillar economic viability, Sikkim is investing on green development sector by focusing on renewable energy, ecotourism, organic farming, and small-scale entrepreneurship, capitalizing on the product coming from the nature, relying on the valuable medicinal and aromatic plants found in the state. The government is also encouraging entrepreneurs to capitalize on this sector. We are now looking at creating employment opportunities for educated youth in their respective areas and are focusing on creating markets and supply chains around traditional craft, tourism based on culture, health and nature, and promoting agriculture product under the one village, one product concept. Sikkim is also looking to promote its organic produce, unique yak product from highland communities, medicinal and aromatic plants. I am pleased to say that Sikkim has been a preferred place for our development partner as we encourage integrated approach through coordinated action through partnership. Sikkim is working closely with both national and international agencies for achieving our common goals of conservation and development, including the NITI Aayog, India's premier think tank, JICA, UNDP, and Ashimot for larger landscape level conservation and sustainable development. We are open to interested partners to work together and value partnership with private sector, civil society, and development partners to meet both technical and financial commitments. Ladies and gentlemen, as Chief Minister of Sikkim, let me reiterate that Sikkim is largely progressing in the development pathways, capitalizing on the blessing of nature, and I assure this forum that my state and people are committed to conservation using green development pathways to address the challenges of climate change, poverty, and the pandemic, and achieve our common goal by balancing conservation and development. As the focus of this forum is nature and economy, this legacy will remain with us for generations to come. Sikkim has been a peaceful state for decades and is therefore an ideal place for investment in green solution and economic growth. You are welcome to Sikkim. Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity. Jai Hind, Jai Sikkim.
Hi, Amita. So I think the first question I think that we really want to ask you, what are the biggest challenges ahead for the country, today? And do you think that it makes sense actually to bring in this dimensioning of ecological valuation?
So, Ranjit, according to me, India is the fifth most vulnerable country to climate change. And it ranks 89th in climate resilience out of 181 countries. And the World Economic Forum's 2020 Global Risk Report has dubbed nature and biodiversity loss the biggest risks facing businesses today. Natural disasters threaten physical assets like never before. And this year alone in India, we have seen super cyclone Amphan, devastating floods in Assam, locust invasions along the western coast of India. Last year, we saw one of the most severe heat waves in our recorded meteorological history, and nearly 30 lakh people lost their homes to floods. We lose close to about 52,000 crore rupees annually because of flooding. And some of our biggest challenges in this new millennium are, according to me, unsustainable agriculture practices and overuse of fertilizer, which have led to desertification, declining pollinator species, water stress causing overall decline in yields, poisoned groundwater, and negative health and financial impacts for our rural farmers. Warming temperatures is broadening the range and prevalence of malaria and dengue. Forest clearances is increasing the risk of zoonotic disease transmission. And air pollution is responsible for nearly 2 million deaths annually. And 190,000 of these were babies. And water contamination through pollution and changing flood patterns has led to an increase in waterborne disease outbreaks. Nearly 60% of our groundwater is contaminated, and water conflicts are doubling as compared to the past decades. And therefore, our cities will face acute water stress and land degradation caused by forest loss is costing us immensely. And this is just the tipping point for India. So the lack of climate and ecological resilience will continue to impact lives of people unless we take cross-sectoral action to end poverty, build sustainable livelihoods, and improve access to finance and resources for the rural sector. And that is what this government has done through a series of measures. If you look at the policy measures taken, they bring ecology at center stage, sustainability at the heart of the challenge, and really development with sustainability today is the key.
Fantastic, really good. In fact, actually, it's sort of a continuum of governments and governments, but because our measure of development and the world development programs are all measured by GDP, and GDP as in gross domestic product as against the green domestic product. So unfortunately, there is no measure. And in today where debt is such a big issue, I think, is it not fair to say that a state like Arunachal, if we valued their nature capital just in the form of trees and actually converted it into sort of made goods and services, don't you think that itself will be able to raise you enough debt? I think a country like India can easily fall back by just measuring its natural resources, which are diminishing, but definitely in the Eastern Himalayas, and help you to raise debt to achieve all the other dimensions that are required on healthcare, education, and connectivity. How would you react to that?
No, very true and very right, because in the Northeast, I think specifically there are 5 key transitions which can transform the region to make it a powerhouse for ecology. It can become a powerhouse of ecology for the economy. Firstly, rewild the economy. We have to build the natural assets of the Northeast, and they will create a huge natural capital for the next few decades, support the indigenous and forest fringe communities. And Northeast can create jobs for over 10 lakh households through rewilding and agroforestry across an estimated 23 lakh hectares of land. And investing in the region's forests could reduce the risk of new zoonoses by up to 40%. Secondly, net zero by 2030. The region needs to invest systematically in decarbonizing its growth by moving away from fossil fuel dependency, enhancing infrastructure efficiency, and investing in nature-based solutions. Using sustainably harvested local natural resources for creating value-added products and creating supply chains and marketing networks is critical. And ecotourism, Eastern Himalayas, according to me, hold immense untapped potential for promotion of ecotourism, which in turn can create a ripple impact to drive related sectors of the economy. What we need for Northeast is a nature economics economy to drive this future. We need to achieve a balance between rural and urban communities and invest in rural communities to build rural futures. Opportunities for natural capital employment and socio-economic well-being through basic issues such as education and healthcare that reach all population. You know, we must practice sustainability as the most fundamental level by mapping emissions across our value chains and planning to reduce these emissions through, sheer abatement actions and innovations for the future, mitigation and adaptation. And it is this drive for adaptation and mitigation that will power India and the Northeast to a new growth phase, pushing the region to become one of the leading innovators in economic solutions to profound ecological problems. If we can do this, Northeast will truly become the global leader. And we have the potential to do this, using natural, social, and economic capital together to unleash a Northeast in which ecology is truly the economy.